Chapter 1. Opening Scene. The First Leap. 2nd December 2025. Late night, close to midnight. The north wing of Oxford's library was a cathedral of silence. Midnight pressed against the tall arched windows, rain streaking the glass, while fog curled along the streets outside. Inside, the air was dry and heavy with dust, the faint scent of parchment lingering like incense. Gas lamps flickered against brass fixtures, casting long shadows across the marble floor. Julian Mercer sat alone at the oak desk beneath those windows. British, born in Cambridge, now an archivist in Oxford, on a cataloguing shift that had slipped past closing. Late 20s, sharp-featured, dark eyes seemingly searching for meaning even in silence. Green t-shirt, a pair of khaki pants and hoodie. There was an unforced charisma in the way he occupied quiet spaces, a gravity he hardly noticed. The final chapter lay open before him. The ink was faded, yet the letters pulsed faintly, as though resisting time to decay. Julian traced the last line with his finger, whispering it aloud. "And if love is but a shadow, then let it follow you across all time." The lamps flickered violently. A low hum filled the air, rising into a tremor that rattled the shelves. The page dissolved beneath his touch, the ink bleeding outward into constellations. The library's walls were bent, warped, and collapsed into a tunnel of starlight. Books tore free from their shelves, spinning around him like planets in orbit. Julian clutched the volume as the floor vanished. His breath caught his throat, as the silence shattered into a roar of rushing wind. Light engulfed him, dazzling and merciless, until coal smoke and rain replaced the scent of dust and ink. When the brilliance faded, Julian stood on a cobblestone street in London, 1883. And waiting for him, cloaked in shadow, was Clara Whitmore, her piercing grey eyes fixed on him with unsettling recognition. Behind her, Elias Varro lingered, his quiet smile unsettlingly familiar. Arc 1, Chapter 2, London. Chapter Continuation. 7:23 p.m, London, 1883. The rain-slicked cobblestones glistened under the weak glow of gas lamps. Fog pressed close, muffling the clatter of carriage wheels and the distant cries of vendors closing their stalls. Julian Mercer stood, rooted, the book heavy in his hands, his heart still racing from the impossible leap. The damp London air clung to his skin, heavy with coal smoke and rain. His lungs burned, his head throbbed, and every step felt weighted, as though gravity itself had shifted. He glanced down at his coat, modern in cut, too sharp for the fashions around him, and realised how out of place he looked. The gas lamps flickered differently than the electric light he knew. Their glow was softer, more fragile, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. Clara Whitmore watched him with piercing grey eyes. Her velvet gown shimmered faintly in the lamplight, its high collar edged with lace, her midnight cloak sweeping the stones like liquid shadow. Powder softened her pale complexion, crimson lips curved with quiet defiance, and kohl rimmed her eyes, making them burn with intensity. She was elegant and rebellion bound together, carrying herself with the poise of someone accustomed to being observed, yet her gaze was sharp, assessing Julian as though he were a character torn from her own verses. As she walked toward Julian, her voice carried the cadence of poetry. "You've crossed a threshold," she said, her tone both warning and welcome. Few are chosen. Fewer survive. Julian's breath caught her elegance, but before he could speak, a cart rattled past. Thomas Reed, the street vendor, pushed it with practiced ease, the scent of roasted chestnuts cutting through coal smoke. His patched coat hung loose, his cap pulled low, but his grin was crooked and knowing. "Best keep your wits, lad," Thomas muttered, offering Julian a chestnut. "London streets swallow men whole, and books, well, they bite harder than teeth." Julian hesitated, unsettled by the remark. Clara's gaze flickered toward Thomas, her expression tightening as though she recognized him. From the shadows, Elias Varro leaned against an iron post, his attire immaculate. He wore a tailored coat, fitting his broad shoulders, its lapels lined with satin, over a crisp white shirt, giving him the air of a man who belonged everywhere and nowhere. A silver pocket watch chain glinted at his side, swaying with each step. His boots were polished, pairing with black leather gloves, and his hair neatly combed back, revealing a face both handsome and unreadable. Unlike Clara's deliberate artistry, Elias's style was understated in perfection, every detail chosen to blend authority with mystery. His quiet smile was disarming, but his eyes held Julian with unnerving familiarity. "Every ending," Elias said softly, "is only a door." The words struck Julian like a key turning in a lock. Clara's hand brushed his arm, warm, deliberate, guiding him forward. Thomas's cart creaked away into the fog, leaving behind the echo of his warning. Elias followed at a distance. His presence was heavy and inevitable. Julian realized with a shiver that he was no longer a reader cataloguing a forgotten story. He was inside one, and the city itself seemed to know it. The dizziness of time travel clung to him like a fever. Clara stepped closer, steadying him with a hand on his arm. Her touch was warm, deliberate, grounding him in this strange century. Arc 1, Chapter 3, The Kidnapped. As they moved through the fog, Clara spoke of her family. Her father, once a respected publisher, had been accused of printing dangerous books, volumes that challenged authority, whispered of freedom, and carried coded truths. Their reputation had collapsed, and her younger brother, Edmund Whitmore, had recently vanished. "Taken," she said bitterly, "by men who fear words more than weapons." Her poetry, Julian realized, was not mere art, but resistance disguised in verse. Before he could ask more, the night erupted. Cloaked men emerged from the mist, their boots striking hard against the stones. Clara cried out as they seized her, dragging her toward a waiting carriage. Julian lunged forward, but his disorientation slowed him. A blow sent him sprawling, the book clattering from his grasp. Elias Varro appeared to stay behind the shadows, with his dark eyes and calm demeanour remaining unreadable. Watching as Clara being taken away did not intervene, but his voice cut through the chaos. "Every choice you make here will echo in the next chapter." Julian scrambled to his feet, heart pounding. The carriage rattled away, Clara's cry fading into the fog. Thomas Reed, the street vendor, appeared at the corner, his patched coat and crooked grin making him look ordinary, yet his words were sharp. "The Whitmores are marked," he muttered. "You'll need more than courage to follow them." Then he vanished into the mist, leaving Julian shaken. Clara's captors shoved her into the carriage, its wheels splashing through the rain-slick streets. The air inside was suffocating, damp leather, coal smoke, and the stench of fear. Her velvet gown was torn at the sleeve, her silver brooch ripped away, yet she sat upright, her grey eyes burning with defiance. "You think words are harmless," she murmured, her voice steady. She began to recite fragments of her own poetry, each line laced with hidden meaning. The rhythm unsettled the men, their confidence faltering. One shifted uneasily, younger than the rest, his gaze betraying doubt. Clara leaned toward him, her crimson lips curving faintly. "My father printed truths. You know them. Help me." The carriage jolted into a narrow alley. The sympathetic guard hesitated, then pulled the door latch. Clara seized the moment, shoving past him into the fog. Her cloak tore free, trailing behind her as she ran. Boots struck the stones, heart pounding, breathing sharply in the cold night. She darted through twisting lanes, guided by memory of her father's allies. At last, a lantern glowed above a discreet bookshop door. Behind it, a hidden salon awaited, candlelit, crowded with intellectuals whispering of forbidden texts. They welcomed her, recognizing both poet and daughter, survivor and symbol. Clara stood tall, despite her dishevelled gown, her kohl-rimmed eyes blazing. She had broken free not by force, but by wit and conviction. And in that salon, she was ready to face the next chapter. Julian stumbled through the fog-choked alleys, lungs burning with coal smoke, his body still heavy from the leap. The carriage had vanished into the night, but Elias's silhouette lingered at every corner, guiding him with cryptic gestures. Julian pressed forward, heart pounding, until the faint glow of a lantern above a discreet bookshop caught his eye.
Arc 1, Chapter 4, The Relief. Inside, the air was warm, candlelit, alive with whispers. Intellectuals huddled around tables, their voices low, speaking of forbidden texts and coded resistance. And there, at the centre, stood Clara Whitmore. Her gown was torn, her cloak frayed, but her poise was unbroken. Kohl-rimmed eyes blazed with defiance, crimson lips curved faintly as she spoke to the gathering. Julian froze, relief flooding him. She had escaped, by wit, not force. Clara's gaze found him across the room, sharp and knowing. For a moment, the chaos of the chase dissolved. She crossed to him, her hand brushing his arm, grounding him once again. "You followed," she said softly, a flicker of warmth beneath her command. "But I was already here." Julian managed a breathless smile. "I thought I'd lost you." Clara's eyes softened, though her voice remained steady. "You'll learn, Julian. Words can open doors. Tonight, they opened mine." Julian realized the truth. Their paths had converged not by chance, but by design, and the salon was only the beginning. The salon flickered with candlelight, shadows stretching across shelves of forbidden texts. Julian stood beside Clara, relief flooding him at her survival. Her gown was torn, her cloak frayed, but her poise was unbroken. She spoke with quiet authority, her kohl-rimmed eyes blazing as she recited fragments of poetry to the gathering. For the first time, Julian felt he belonged, until the air shifted. Arc 1, Chapter 4, The Lost Again. The doors slammed open. Elias Varro entered, immaculate in his charcoal frock coat, satin lapels gleaming, silver pocket watch dangling like a pendulum of fate. His calm smile unsettled the room. "This place is compromised," Elias declared, his voice low but commanding. "They are coming." The intellectuals stood in panic, whispers rising like smoke. Clara's hand tightened on Julian's arm. "We can't leave yet," she whispered fiercely. "There is more to learn." But Elias stepped closer, gaze fixed on Julian. "You have no choice. If you stay, you will die here. The book is your only escape." Julian hesitated, torn between Clara's defiance and Elias's certainty. The salon erupted in chaos, voices rising, shadows shifting, as if the city itself pressed against the walls. Elias thrust a slim green-bound volume into Julian's hands. "Read!" Elias ordered, his tone brooking no refusal. Clara's eyes blazed with fury. "Don't listen to him!" she cried, but her voice was drowned by the roar of collapsing timbers. The salon shook violently, candlelight sputtering, plaster raining from the ceiling. Julian opened the book. As he read, the final line shimmered, ink bleeding into constellations. The floor dissolved beneath him, voices stretched into echoes. His last sight was Clara struggling against Elias's grip, her cry lost in the storm of starlight. Then the world vanished. Coal smoke faded, candlelight collapsed. Julian staggered forward into sterile brilliance, white corridors humming with machines, glass towers rising beyond. The air smelled of ozone and steel. The year was 2140, and waiting in the glow was Dr. Kaylin Murr, her eyes sharp behind luminous lenses, watching him as though she had expected his arrival all along.